Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. Seeing that thou hast forgotten the law of thy God, I will also forget thy children. You are learning why. Nimrod and the Tower of Babel. Do you know what happened with the Tower of Babel? The confounding of tongues. Well, the attitude the people had was a social disorder. What was the principle, law, or process they were out of alignment with? Even Ivy League schools have been teaching the social disorder of business is just business. If someone gets in your way, you just run right over the top of them and keep on going. It's just business. This is a social disorder, similar to the disorder they had with the Tower of Babel. And it's similar to attitudes too many businesses have today. Take the health business. It has become the biggest industry out there, with more money being made in health every year. People dying faster and faster, but this is part of the problem with it. They think, let's get some of that money. Let's take a niche, take some of the top products, copy some of their prime ingredients, slap our own label on a product, and get it out in the market right away. They don't care about who actually wrote the book on that science. They're not given any credit. It's the attitude of, how can I do this without you? There's no integrity at all. There's no honor, no loyalty, any of those virtues. It's just absolutely not there. It's a social disorder, the whole attitude and thought process of, how can I do this without you? Like they don't even care. People with that attitude, some call them copycats. They might call it modeling. But I've got to tell you, they don't typically retain even half of what they could have learned. And I have a lot of compassion for these people. We know several seemingly successful people who've had that attitude and have not retained even half of what they could have. We hope we can help them see it was never necessary to have that attitude. No amount of financial success can compensate for the disintegration of our personality. So it isn't the intelligent choice. And we can help a lot more people if we act more as a team. At least give credit where credit is due. Every time we've seen people who didn't give credit where credit was due, they started missing information. My father did his best, but there was at least one important instance where he didn't go back and say thank you to someone he knew deserved some credit. One individual was his physics teacher, who he described as thinking he was crazy because all he did was teach him how to write and break down equations. And he knew there was more to physics than writing and breaking down equations. But some years later, when he'd gathered enough discoveries on the life and death processes of the cells, it just hit him as clear as can be. You can write the formulas for life and death, do it. And he put pen to paper, and out came the basic formula for life and the basic formula for death, which have always been totally accepted by the top medical minds who have had the opportunity to be shown them, even though they've never been taught in any medical school. A common challenge for authors and public speakers who develop training programs is that over time, it tends to become more and more about themselves. And although my father never went back to say thank you to his physics teacher, he always made sure he made this full story available as a way of giving due credit to his physics teacher. And he did the same with everything else he picked up over the years. Credit for who discovered what and where he learned things from as much as possible, which only added credibility to his entire program and helped him gather and retain as much as he could from all of those sources, instead of only getting half of it and not even the most important half, which is what usually happens if we don't give due credit in one form or another. You see, inside of all of us, deep down, we know if we're giving due credit or not. When we're not, we're cutting ourselves off to one degree or another. There are some important insights for you to understand here. Some very good reasons for me to talk about this. For example, what if that physics teacher had a greater blessing to share with him once he'd come back to report his success and appreciation? Sometimes all it takes is one wrong move with our relationships, and that physics teacher could have had connections my father had no idea about. Maybe the bigger blessing would have come from someone else that physics teacher knew who could have helped put those formulas on the map for everyone in the scientific world to see. Do you see where I'm going with this? Maybe my father never really had to struggle the way he did. Well, I'm not saying I know that for sure, but you never know what you don't know. I do know that people like to feel appreciated and to see good fruits of their labors. People like to see how they've blessed the lives of others. We're all meant to play the role of teacher and student in different ways with our relationships, depending on where our strengths and weaknesses are. Regardless of race or religion, if you put the laws of empowerment into action, you get the results.